Okay, welcome back to another author interview at Crystal Lake. And today our guest is Amanda Blake, who has written the book In the Dollhouse We All Wait. It's been a long day. Okay, so I'm going to let her introduce herself because she probably can do a better job than I can, apparently. So take it away.
Yeah, I'm Amanda M. Blake. I write horror fiction of all kinds and sometimes just dark other genres. I write quiet horror, supernatural horror, human horror, extreme horror, which we're here for today. Um, uh, Today we're here for In the Dollhouse We All Wait, but a few years ago I also published Question Not My Salt with Torrid Waters through Crystal Lake. And I have a fairy tale mashup series that's mostly fantasy, but definitely has a heart of horror in it, called Thorns. I've done some poetry collections. I write under another name, Aurelia T. Evans, where I write erotic horror romance, which I love the sort of diametrically opposed um, aims of romance and horror. So I like figuring out how to make that work. Um, so yeah, I I've been writing for pretty much 20 years and publishing for a little less than that.
Yeah, well, it sounds like you have an impressive catalog. So um, tell us about this book. What's it about?
In the Dollhouse We All Wait is an extreme horror novel about Sam Frain, who is a live-in nanny, or a new live-in nanny for Annie Lange, who she goes to her big mansion in a small, out-of-the-way place in Texas, in North Texas, uh, probably around the Melissa area. Um, and she discovers that this girl, Annie Lang, is actually a fully grown woman who just acts and thinks like a little girl. And she calls the mansion her dream house, like the Barbie dream house. She loves dolls, but Sam quickly learns that she doesn't limit herself just to inanimate objects when it comes to her doll collection. And with her unlimited resources and sadistic ingenuity, she creates dolls out of people and makes them do whatever she wants. But because she's so rich and because her father protects her, she's completely insulated from any consequences whatsoever. So this, of course, lends itself to some pretty gnarly scenes. But if you are a big fan of extreme horror or human horror, this is definitely the story for you.
Yeah, it sounds very creepy and gruesome at the same time. So yeah, it's very intriguing. So tell us a little bit about what were your inspirations for writing In the Dollhouse We All Wait.
I've always kind of been fascinated by the idea of people being treated like dolls. I imagine them like marionettes, or puppets, ventriloquist dummies, or like people sitting at a tea party table being dressed and not being in control of themselves. And that imagery has been with me for a while. So I've written some poetry and some short stories kind of inspired by the concept. But Dollhouse was where I really just sat down and thought, okay, what would be required for someone to be able to do this? And it turns out a very sadistic mind and a lot of money. Um, was kind of the answers, what kind of the answer to it. So I just logistically, that's what's required. And going from poetry and short stories and just, just sort of a vague concept and making it into a novel, it definitely got more horrifying in detail and writ large like that. I'm also a doll collector myself, uh, in my own way. I used to collect Victorian style dolls. I no longer do. I gave away that collection, but I do still have dolls all around me right now, stuffed animals and figurines, and mostly horror inspired. And they make me happy. I like inanimate objects that I can hug, So
Mm.
I kind of bring my own tendency towards collection and love of dolls, both in a creepy and non-creepy sense, to this book.
Yeah, I collect a few things too. I have one or two stuffed animals and things, and I used to have a couple of dolls. I'm not sure if I still have them because I got rid of a lot of things when I moved, so I can't remember if those are one of the ones I kept or if I got rid of them. I think I got rid of them, but yeah. So, but yeah, I understand that. So, tell us a little bit about the main character. What kind of an emotional journey does she go through in the book?
So I wrote Sam Frain as I definitely drew a little bit from my own experience, being an elder millennial burnt out by corporate society a bit. She because she is also an elder millennial and she's an oldest daughter who's deep in burnout. Unlike me, she's also a caretaker. She's taking care of her family most of her life. She stepped up to be the mom when her mom wasn't interested really in mothering, and her older brother was kind of busy doing his own thing. So she's taken care of her younger siblings. Then I believe then she became a teacher, and then she became a caretaker in a assisted living facility of some kind. And then finally, she just couldn't take it anymore, and she started working at a gas station and an office job. But that didn't feed her back everything that she had given to other people. So she was she starts the novel in not necessarily in dire financial straits, but definitely the strain that a lot of people in my generation and younger are feeling. And she is drawn to this too good to be true um, flyer advertising a request for a live-in nanny for a young rich girl, and she sees that as an opportunity, as really as an opportunity to rest. She can take care of one little girl who has, resources to take care of her her and herself. Um, she just wants something to be a little easy for once, and the pay is, well into the range of, oh my God, I can't believe they have all this money all of a sudden. What do I do with it? But then she ends up in Annie Lange's dream house in a fight to survive a fully autonomous human being, or to survive as a fully autonomous human being rather than getting turned into a doll. So she didn't start in a great place, but she just ended up in a worse one. It's just prettier, you know?
Mm. Yeah, so the book does deal with this kind of psychological cat and mouse game of control and power dynamics. So why did you want to explore those themes?
Um, I mean, all of the gore and the torture and the gross out and the yuck of it all. And I know it's gonna, create a lot of bad feelings inside you, but it's really just the dressing for the main event, which is the push and pull between Sam and Annie, because they're opposite sides of the same coin. They they both started from different places, but they both want fairly similar things from their life. Um, they want to be happy. They want to fill their time with enrichment and rest and art and that sort of thing. But Sam has a heart and Annie just, wants to carve them out. And they're both really dynamic women in their own way. And what I was surprised by while I was writing and while I was editing was that there really is this intense chemistry between them. I mean, it's not romantic, but it's very character driven, and it's just so intense because Sam is really delicately trying to walk the line between playing Annie's game so that she doesn't get turned into a doll, but also trying not to become a part of it, trying not to become the monster that Annie is. Um, but at the same time, she's also trying to get out of that game completely. And on the other side of things, it's not entirely clear whether Annie wants for her to succeed at staying her nanny or whether she wants her to fail. And I'm not entirely sure Annie completely knows what she wants from Sam, but I think she enjoys the game with Sam as much as she enjoys playing with her dolls.
So sort of like a Batman Joker dynamic almost.
Yeah, yeah. They really they kind of awaken each other in a very similar way.
Yeah, so it's interesting that you wanted to explore this idea of cruelty, excess, and dysfunctional power imbalance, but you're exploring it between two women because I mean, I don't know if it's the norm, but a lot of these stories have it between a woman and a man. So why did you want it between two women?
I am incredibly intrigued by the idea of the woman villain because they often do very similar things to what men do, but they usually do it more effectively, and it hits a lot harder when they do it because you don't necessarily expect it. Um,
Yeah,
I
historically,
think,
women are better better being murderers than men.
and it's usually because they go through a like filters of men. They control men in their vicinity, and those men are basically their power players. But also, I think a lot of like women serial killers, they tend to be very effective because they use less detectable means. Like there are a lot of women poisoners that has only recently been been able to detect that chemically. But yeah, I think I say somewhere in the book that men have kind of cornered the market on the kind of sadism that Annie engages in, but it isn't exclusive to them. I mean, you see that in, I mean, it's Epstein Island, but you have Ghislaine Maxwell facilitating it. And so
Yeah.
I really like writing women who are really terrible, terrible people. And I did it in Question Not My Salt too with the mother figure. Um, I did it in Deep Down with the Scorpion Mother. I did it in Out of Curiosity and Hunger. It's just really more interesting when women do it because you just don't see it as often. And there's that element because you know men have power privilege. You have the expectation that they will have the power. They have the physical dominance because they just generally tend to be bigger. And Annie Lange is a small woman. I mean, she's not like tiny. She's not like Kristen Chenoweth, but she's a more diminutive woman. Both my protagonist and antagonist are about the same size. I would say about 5'4", 5'5", maybe 5'3". But she's this small woman with a great deal of psychological power and financial insulation. So her father is the one who facilitates rather than mitigates her. Her father is the one who kind of helped her create this dollhouse, but she's the one who envisioned it. She's the one who maintains it. And it's just really interesting because as a woman, she experiences that lack of privilege where she's not expected to be in control, but she is in complete control. But it also makes the fact that she acts and thinks like a child kind of doubly curious because that's an added layer of a lack of privilege because you know children they're not completely autonomous. They're independent human beings, but they're often controlled by the adults in their life. But she kind of has to work within that framework in order to have control. So like she's really, really very smart and very manipulative and very creative. And she has to be because she's a woman and because she thinks like a child.
Yeah, I mean, historically, if you look, like I watch and read a lot of true crime. If you look at women who have killed, especially women who are multiple murderers or even into serial killing, n- they are very good at masking what and who they are. behind personas. So that is very much in accordance with what actually happens in real life. So yeah, I can definitely see that. So what is it about the extreme horror and splatterpunk that appeals to you as a writer?
It is so funny. I like to say that I didn't really intend to jump into the waters of extreme horror. I just kind of ended up there because I would have a concept and then I would write through that concept to its logical conclusion and it just kind of ended up extreme. I just I feel like I'm a huge horror fan and I watch everything from like PG horror to unrated horror. I love Goosebumps. I love the Hostel movies. I love it all. And I think that there's a time and a place for holding back when what you don't see can be more effective than what you do. Like I like to use as an example the Human Centipede, the first film. After that, they got more explicit in what they showed, but the first film they actually don't show that much gore, and they depend on you filling in the blanks because you can fill in the blanks far worse than anything that they can show. And but sometimes you just got to look awful things square in the face. And I find that with human horror, that's more important than it is in supernatural horror, where the monster or the circumstances wouldn't usually exist. I think we have a tendency to underestimate how horrible people can be. As bad as you think they can be worse. And we like to sort of distance ourselves from that and we call those people monsters, but those people are human. And I think it's really important that we grapple with that tension in ourselves, our capacity for that sort of cruelty. So I guess you could say that extreme horror for me is a form of shadow work. It's a way of looking at human cruelty just straight in the face and admitting that it exists. And yes, when I write it, it is sort of exaggerated and possibly not 100% medically accurate as again Human Centipede advertised, but like when you read about real things that have happened to real people, you can quickly realize, yes, people are actually that awful, and the only thing that are keeping them from doing what some of my villains do is money and time. And like H.H. Holmes had that huge torture hotel because he had the money and the resources and the time to create it. But
Yeah.
sometimes you don't even need that. Sometimes you just need a space and privacy to be that awful. Now, not everyone is I don't think everyone is capable of that level of cruelty, but I think it is important to ask yourself, gun to your head, what would you be willing to do in order to survive? How would you hurt someone else in order to? So, yeah, as a proponent of human horror, it's just really important to look at it.
Yeah, I can see how extreme horror would work better with a human horror as opposed to the supernatural, because the supernatural feeds better on dread and the unknown, whereas human horror probably is better with the gruesome extreme in some cases. Yeah, I can definitely see that. So, what's your favorite scene without spoilers in the book?
Well, I don't I don't know whether I have a favorite scene because it's like they steadily get worse. Um, I don't
Oh, what
enjoy
was the
it.
scene you liked writing the most? Let's put it that way.
I actually hated writing it, but I'm really when I set out to write it, I wrote like a list of when I set out to write Dollhouse, I wrote a list of all the different kinds of toys that there were to kind of come up with an idea of how to twist them into Annie's world. And I think the teddy bear nightmare is particularly disturbing. It's pretty awful, but I thought it was sort of emblematic of Annie's dream house and how effective Annie is at exacting her will, how very powerful this grown-up little girl is.
Yeah, I just heard teddy bear and I could my imagination went to very bad places. Yeah, that's probably an interesting, a part about your book is though that you're taking very innocent things like teddy bears and twisting them into horror, so that's probably very effective, I would think. So, did you find anything challenging about writing the book, other than the being grossed out by the stuff? Did any scene or character give you trouble?
Um, I seem to remember everything flowed pretty well, even though there was that sort of nausea and like part of the reason why I never saw myself in the extreme or splatterpunk world was that I am a very sensitive person, even while I'm writing. So whenever I'm writing super dark material, I just know it's gonna drag my mood down. I'm already sort of like in a steady chronic depression. I live with it. I'm fine with it. It's just how I am. But I need to be mindful of what's going to bring me down to a deeper level. And stories like this, or like the fourth and fifth book in my Thorn series, it was basically just torturing some of my characters psychologically. And so writing despair and torture and trauma tends to sink me deeper into that natural depression because like it's almost like it's almost like method acting because I put myself in the perspective of the characters. I'm feeling it and I'm translating what I'm feeling into the story. So I'm feeling sick because the character's feeling sick. But as an added layer, I'm also feeling Annie's cruelty and her heartlessness. So I'm feeling sick because I'm feeling psychopathic and I'm feeling the doll's pain and their, how they wish for death and their anger, their mindless just need to commit violence as a response to what they've been turned into. And like it takes, I don't know how long it takes anyone to really read. I think for me, it would take about a few hours for me to read the novel, but maybe it takes a few days, maybe it takes a week. But it took over a month to write it, and I was just sitting in those feelings almost the entire month. Now, now that I know that I tend to get in that depression, I could prepare for it and take care of myself a little bit more. But it's not pleasant. It's not pleasant, but it's necessary.
Yeah, some of those darker scenes can get you get into your head, all right. So is there a facet of writing fiction that's tricky for you in general?
Um, I hate research.
Okay,
I
we
don't like
definitely
doing it.
differ there.
Like I know somebody who they can spend months just researching before they even start writing. Me, I don't know what I need to research until I start writing, and then I don't want to stop and interrupt my momentum while I'm writing. So I generally, rather than researching before or doing extensive research during, I'd rather write something that I happened to learn before, like something that I've learned for the sake of learning, like watching animal shows or documentaries or immersing myself in period pieces. I'd rather learn that way than study a subject for the purpose of writing. Does that make sense?
Mhm. I am not like that at all. Research is catnip to me, honestly. I mean, I do write a lot of historical based stuff, so and I love history, so I'm loving it. I do make a lot of notes when I write the first draft, though, as I'm writing, if I don't want to stop the flow. and I need to research something, I'll just write research this here and stuff like that on as I'm writing and just keep going and then go back later and do it. But
I
no,
have written a few I have written a few historical novels, and they do tend to be the most demanding in terms of
yeah.
research. Um, so it's not my preference, but I try not to spend excuse me, I try not to spend too long in the research process. I think it's just because I tend to compartmentalize my tasks, so I don't like to interrupt one of my tasks in order to do another task.
Yeah, I mean, every writer's got their own method, I tell you, but it's like the research is my catnip, I tell you. Anyway, so what's the hardest challenge you've had to overcome in your writing life?
I don't really get writer's block. There's always ideas, and I've kind of trained myself to write whether or not I'm feeling up to it or not. So inspiration isn't really needed, or rather motivation isn't needed. I just kind of force myself to sit down. But I have burned out, and I'm kind of, I think, in the middle of one right now. Um, but I think the hardest thing I've ever done was it knowing when to stop writing a story and start again or change something. Um, like I wrote the first time I tried writing my Dracula reimagining, I fin I s- just forced myself to stop at about 71, 72,000 words, which is, it's practically a whole novel right there. But I just realized it was not working, that the feeling of pulling teeth was indicating that it wasn't working. 'Cause sometimes that feeling just means that I'm tired, and it's just normal friction and hard to maintain the motivation. But oh man, that killed me. Because then I just looked back at that month and a half that I'd been working so hard, and it feels like it was all just a waste of time. When you're a writer, time is at a premium. Time is the most important thing. All of that time, I could have been working on something that worked, and I was working on something that didn't. And I've had to stop and start over also at about 25,000 words before, but that 75,000 just killed me. Um,
Yeah, I know that
And
feeling.
I know it isn't really wasted because it's just an extended form of problem solving. Because you write the problem to figure out the solution, but it still hurts. I did end up writing the Dracula reimagining years later when I could finally just sort of approach it from a different angle, and it worked much better, and I'm very, very happy with it. But yeah, that initial effort and failure still still hurts.
Yeah, like I said, I know that feeling. It's like you know something's wrong, it's just not working, and it's like you got to put the brakes on and just set it aside and hope you can figure it out at some later date.
And it can take years. Like I set aside a novel that I wrote that there were things that I liked about it, but I knew it wasn't working. And it's been 20 years and I keep meaning to rewrite it. And I think I
Yeah,
finally came up with a solution, but yeah.
yeah. I mean, I haven't had to wait years, thankfully, but I have had issues with my most recent novel I've been working on. I had a big issue with it. Luckily, a brainstorming session fixed that with some other authors. So thank you to the brainstormers that helped me out. But because yeah, I did. Yeah, I was just like I knew it wasn't working. I was plowing right through it, plowed all the way through it until the very end, and I'm going, I don't know how to end this. So yeah.
Endings can really, yeah.
So what's your favorite aspect of being a writer?
I just think it's really neat that I can take what's in my head and put it into words in such a way that it preserves the vividness of the initial thought. I mean, what a cool thing to be able to do. And it's just me. I don't have something else do it for me and then claim that I did it. I mean, that's the whole issue with AI. A lot of writers who have been writing were like that the writing is the point. The struggle is the point. It's not suffering, but friction is really good for your brain. Problem solving is good for your brain. And when you get it right, when you finally get to the point where you have a feel for the craft such that you can kind of turn off your thinking brain and just turn on your writing brain and just let it flow out, it's just amazing what you're able to do. I mean, it's just bananas when you think about it.
It is. I agree. It is neat.
I just think it's neat.
Yeah. So, who are some of your favorite authors, and do you have anything special on your to read list for this year?
I'll read almost anything from Sherry Priest or Shauna McGuire or her other name, Mira Grant. I have a whole shelf for her. Um, I've been writing so much, and especially since I started working full time, I have even less time to read. I kind of grab reading while I can, but because I've kind of entered into another burnout phase, I know that I need to pull back and start resting my head, but also filling it with creative what just sorry um sort of refill my creativity cup with other people's creativity. So I'm hoping that as I wind down a little bit on some of my writing, I can uh, ratchet up some of my reading. So I've got some Stephen Graham Jones, some Chuck Wendig, some Delilah Dawson, Emma E. Murray, and Mae Murray, and oh golly, who do I have over here? Clay McLeod Chapman to read. I've got my reading, my to be read list keeps growing, and I just haven't been able to keep up with all the books that I have and that I want. But I hope I can do a little bit more over the next few months. And as
Yeah.
I just generally slowed down,
Yeah.
I've been really going at writing for 20 years. I think it's time to rest a little bit, although I can never really turn it off.
Yeah, I know the feeling trying to get reading time, and I just added 4 more books to my TBR this week. So it's like, yeah, people have got to stop writing all these cool books.
Oh, it's like I have books in my on my closet bookshelves, and then steadily, like my room used to be clean, but steadily I've just been kind of growing and growing little piles of books that I haven't read yet. So just
Yeah.
not enough room.
Yeah, thanks. That's why I get a lot of them on Kindle these days. It's easier to put a lot of books in that digital thing.
I can't read a digital e-reader. I for some reason my attention span what when I'm on a screen, I want multiple things, but when I'm reading, I want the one thing. So I like physical books.
Yeah, I know some people are like that. So I mean, but for me, I like physical books, but it's kind of easier for me to read them on the Kindle, so I switched over.
My sister-in-law reads a lot on her Kindle. She likes that there's no clutter and that she can have whatever she wants whenever she wants on one thing. And then I'm over here with, you know, all my paperbacks and hardbacks and just yes, surround me with piles of books.
Yeah, well, they're nice for backdrops and videos, though. Those paper
Mm.
bags on the bookshelf, all the pretty backgrounds. So, so tell us about some of the other books you've written.
Well, if In the Dollhouse We All Wait interests you, or if you read it and you like it, you'll probably love Question Not My Salt, which was my first extreme horror novel. It's set during Thanksgiving, a Thanksgiving dinner. My protagonist first, and in Dollhouse, our protagonist is trapped in a mansion. In Question, she's trapped in a two-story brick house in suburbia, but they're both kind of splatterpunk survival novels that are designed to turn your stomach. And if Dollhouse is a bit grim for you, Question might be a lot more fun because there is some humor and a bit of and it is a quicker read. I also have Creature Features, deep down and out of curiosity and hunger, and they're both also on the shorter side. So they are a faster read. And then I have my fairy tale series, and then my under my other name I have a demonic circus series with a wish fulfilling djinn. I have the Meridian series, which is kind of a mystical hotspot for angels and demons and gargoyles, and it was a lot of fun to write. And I have my last book in that one coming out, I think in May. Yeah.
Oh, that sounds like a lot more books for the TBRs for people. So, do you have any upcoming projects? What's next for you?
I just put out a collection of seasonal horror poetry called A Nightmare for All Seasons. It's got a carnivorous spring, a murderous summer, an autumn carnival, and a winter haunted house, plus a bonus of uh, a section just for apocalypse. It's like the first season of spring and then the final season of the end of the world. Um, and I'm really proud of it. It's longer than my first poetry collection. It's a lot of fun, more horror-y if that's possible. I'm also planning on putting out a short novella called May Cooler Heads Prevail, which is structured as an in-depth interview with a vigilante who can make heads burst into flame, which seems incredibly timely. Um, I do have that Dracula reimagining that I spoke about, and I'm still figuring out what to do with it, whether I want to have creative control myself or have someone else take care of it. I have some novels I need to rewrite. I have an epic bucket list novel that I've been wanting to write for years, and I think I'm finally kind of ready to take it on. And it's really scary because it's big and epic, and I've always wanted to write something like that, but it's just scary. But I think I'm gonna try and do that this summer after I've had a bit of a rest, and I'll take my time on it rather than, push the word count, get it out as fast as possible. I also kind of want to start writing more essays and creative nonfiction within the horror genre, just for the fun of it until I start writing again, writing fiction, long fiction. So there's stuff I want to do, there's stuff on my list, but I'm trying to not do too much. It sounds like a lot, doesn't it? I still somehow manage to do a
You're
lot.
talking to someone who has over a dozen works in progress going right now, so I'm on board with a lot. So, yeah, okay. So we've got a lot to look forward to from you coming up too. So, we'll wrap the interview up here. So, thank you for being a guest. It's always a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, and that's it for this author interview at Crystal Lake. Bye for now, everybody.
Bye.